Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing episode of History of the Marvel Universe. This channel is sponsored in part by Patreon supporters. If you would like to vote in monthly polls and help decide what topics get covered on the channel, you can sign up for $1 per month over at patreon.com/MaryMarvelite. The link is in the description below, along with other places you can find me. In a previous video we talked in depth about the Kree-Skrull War, a conflict between two alien races that lasted millions of years and spanned the entire universe. Over the course of this war, notably in the past several centuries, the Skrulls have made multiple attempts to infiltrate the Earth, likely due to its strategic location near a natural space warp, making it easily accessible to extraterrestrials. However, it's not those attempted secret invasions we're going to be talking about today. Instead, we're going over just a few of the encounters Earth has had with other alien races, some of which you may never have heard of. Let's begin with a species called the Tribbitites, although on Earth they are more commonly referred to as the Toadmen. Even so, they are technically closer to reptiles than amphibians biologically. They originally evolved on the planet Krok in the Owin star system, but after stealing technology from other alien races like the Kree, the Toadmen relocated to an artificial world of their own creation, Tribbit, colloquially referred to as Toad World. They began enslaving other worlds to build an interstellar empire of their own, and one of their targets was indeed the Earth. Meanwhile, the Marvel Age of Heroes had just begun, and the Toadmen just so happened to cross the Incredible Hulk. Funnily enough, though, it wasn't the Hulk who repelled the Tribbitites, but his human persona, Bruce Banner, who used a gamma-powered cannon to repel the invading alien fleet. Another alien race to attempt an invasion of Earth early in the Marvel Age were the Kronans, colloquially referred to as the Stone Men from Saturn. And while the silicon-based nature of their biology does indeed give them a stone-like outer hide, the Kronans are not actually from Saturn. This misconception comes from their use of an outpost on one of Saturn's moons. They actually come from the planet Rhea, the first world in the Krona system. The Kronans have fairly advanced technology, including interstellar travel, gravity-manipulating devices, hologram projectors, and powerful robots. Their interest in Earth dates back at least 3,000 years, when they were repelled by the eternal Gilgamesh and a time-traveling Captain America. In more recent decades, a Kronan scouting party was seen on Earth by the lame Dr. Donald Blake. However, he was actually the thunder god Thor, who had been reduced to mortal form by his father Odin so that he could learn humility. And in fact, it was because of this Kronan invasion that Blake rediscovered the enchanted hammer Mjolnir and reclaimed his true form. Thor defeated the Stone Men, who abandoned their conquest of Earth, fearing that the rest of humanity was potentially as powerful as he was. One of these Kronan scouts, a warrior named Korg, later resurfaced on the planet Sakaar, where he was enslaved into becoming a gladiator before befriending the Hulk and becoming one of his Warbound. Speaking of the Hulk, he also encountered another alien invader, the Metal Master, early in his career. Known as Molib on his home world, he came from the planet Astra in the Mu Cephei system. But rather than belonging to a larger invasion force, the Metal Master was a rogue member of his species. While all Astrans share his ability to psionically manipulate metallic atoms, most are peaceful, with approximately 3/4 of their population of 10 million being either priests or artists. Molib's failed attempt at a single-handed invasion of Earth happened after he was branded a criminal by the other Astrans and sent into exile. Another race that did plot a larger-scale invasion of Earth were the Xartans, colloquially referred to as the Carbon Copy Men. Their homeworld, Xarta, is the fourth planet of the Zugano system in the Fornax galaxy. Millions of years ago, Xarta was visited by the space gods known as Celestials, who experimented on the planet's dominant life forms. This resulted in a deviant subspecies of Xartans with an unstable genetic code that allowed them to shapeshift, who then exterminated their unaltered counterparts. Funnily enough, this is the exact same reason that the Skrulls can also shapeshift. The carbon copy men can also mimic various powers when they change their form. Their attempted invasion of Earth was spearheaded by their champion Ugarth and his son Zano. However, they were challenged by Thor, who defeated them and threw Ugarth into space. The Xartan fleet attempted to recover him before fleeing, leaving Zano and the others behind. Thor then forced them into transforming into trees, tricking them into losing their ability to think by mimicking the plants too perfectly. Zano and the others did eventually awaken years later and swear revenge on the Thunder God, but were subsequently defeated by the mutant team X-Factor while attempting to take over their sentient ship. Another fairly obscure alien race were the A-Chiltarians, who come from a star system that we on Earth have designated our Monoceratus. Their technology is not quite as advanced as other spacefaring races, but their home planet was close enough to ours to make Earth a target for conquest. They traveled here and constructed a giant robotic Cyclops, not the X-Man, the one from Greek mythology. However, this invasion attempt was thwarted by Ant-Man and the Wasp. These aliens are really only notable because among that initial group of invaders was an A-Chiltarian named Kraglin. Like his cinematic counterpart, this Kraglin was later a member of a crew of space pirates called the Ravagers under Yondu Udanta. However, the comic book version of Kraglin was seemingly killed after only a few minor appearances. Next, let's talk about the Sneepers, an alien race with a civilization that long predated humanity and lived on the planet Sneep in the Snoop system. Like the A-Chiltarians, their technology was not as advanced as the likes of the Skrulls or the Kree, but they did possess a form of interstellar travel that allowed them to carve out a relatively small local empire. During this time, they watched the Earth from afar but did not have the capacity to travel there. They observed the evolution of humanity from its emergence as early hominids up to the Renaissance and Age of Enlightenment. But the Sneepers began to grow concerned when mankind's technological capabilities began to advance faster than they expected. While they still couldn't physically get to the Earth, they began considering ways to attack from afar. Things came to a head when humans created something that the Sneepers didn't have: nuclear weapons. Initially, the aliens were worried, but as they continued to observe, they saw that mankind was far from united. They abandoned their plans to attack the Earth, content that the humans would simply destroy themselves if left alone long enough. Now, interestingly, despite their level of technology not allowing full galactic travel, the Sneepers did indeed have intentions on conquering the entire Milky Way. While they were evidently unaware of much larger rival empires during this time, in more recent decades they have become a part of the greater intergalactic community. Funnily enough, when an alien council composed of various species from the 8 galaxies gathered to discuss the potential danger posed by the Earth, Dib-Deb of the Sneepers actually spoke in humanity's defense. Largely because when Ego, the living planet, was attacking the fleets of the Council races, one of the beings instrumental in his defeat was Professor Charles Xavier, an Earthling. Next, let's briefly touch on a peaceful race from the Beta Scorpi system, the Elan. These aliens are very powerful, each possessing the ability to project psionic energy from their antennae to transmute elements and rearrange molecules. While the upper limits of their abilities have not been fully quantified, the Elans are typically dedicated to art, science, and philosophy. They possess the capacity for interstellar travel, but tend to avoid contact with other races. But early in the Marvel Age, one of their number appeared on Earth and seemingly went on a rampage. This Elan clashed with the Fantastic Four, but based on its behavior, Reed Richards hypothesized that the alien invader was actually a lost child, and in a bit of a gamble, successfully sent a message to a nearby spacefaring vessel summoning the alien's parents. The elder Elans took the child back home, and the young alien would sometimes be referred to on Earth as the Infant Terrible. This same Elan later resurfaced after being injured by the second Starstalker, a reptilian alien from the planet Vormir who inherited his father's mutant strength. The Elan was rescued by the fire-powered Frankie Ray and the superhuman siblings, the Power Pack, but one of its antennae needed to be amputated. Years later, he was enslaved by the ruler of the Negative Zone, Annihilus, and infected with mind-controlling parasites. Now known as the Delinquent, he was freed at the end of the Annihilation War, but his mind was damaged and he regressed to an infantile state. Next, let's touch on the Guna from the Jannath system in the Andromeda Galaxy. Their population of roughly only 5 million was threatened when their star began burning out and their homeworld, Gunava, started to freeze. They plotted to steal a star from another system to replace their own and selected ours as a match. However, when their master scout Zaku arrived to take the necessary measurements, he noticed that the Earth's moon was home to a Watcher. The Watchers, of course, are beings of immense power and technological capabilities who have sworn never to interfere with other races. Wanting to ensure his mission would go unimpeded, Zaku questioned the Watcher, Uatu, to see if this reputation was true. And convinced that he was no threat to him, Zaku spoke with Uatu for some time, answering all of his questions as well. However, it turns out he landed his ship on unstable ground, causing it to sink during their conversation. He begged Uatu to help him, but of course the Watcher could not interfere, leaving Zaku to suffocate as his spacesuit slowly ran out of air. The ultimate fate of the Guna is unconfirmed, but years later, after the human Rick Jones wrote his autobiography, many alien races wanted the exclusive rights to it due to his involvement in the Kree-Skrull War. While they abandoned this when they realized he didn't actually have any useful information, one of the aliens involved appeared to be a Guna, and so it seems the species has not yet reached extinction. Here's a quick one. The people of Vega 4 were moderately advanced on a galactic scale with an empire of planets within their own star system. At first glance, the Vegans seemed similar to horned humans, but with an average height of 30 feet. However, they are considered a cowardly species, only attempting to conquer races they deem more primitive than themselves. One of their agents, referred to as the Colossus, attempted this on Earth, but was confronted by Giant Man and the Wasp. After a single defeat, the Colossus retreated, declaring that the Earth was too dangerous to invade, and to my knowledge the Vegans haven't been heard of since. I also want to briefly mention the Quist, but unlike the Vegans, there's a lot that could be discussed about this race, perhaps enough for their own video someday. The Quist are one of several humanoid species throughout the universe, so similar to one another that often a biopsy would be required to distinguish them. Other such humanoid species include Arcturans, Galadorians, Xandarians, Xanalavians, and, of course, Earthlings. The Quist are noteworthy because it was their agent, Lucifer, who initially cost Professor Xavier the use of his legs. I talked about that in more detail in my video about Professor X, so I'll link that in the description. Another one we talked about on the channel before is the Makluans, otherwise known as the Kronans. Dragon-like in appearance, a group of Makluans set on conquest crash-landed on Earth several thousand years ago. Most of these so-called Dragon Lords took on human form to hide in plain sight for centuries. The enormous Fang Foom remained behind and was placed into a deep slumber. While he slept, their ship was discovered by a Chinese criminal known as the Mandarin, who stole from within 10 rings of power. He was later manipulated by one of the Dragon Lords as part of a master plan, during which the Makluans revealed themselves and regained their true forms. They were ultimately defeated when the Mandarin joined forces with his arch-nemesis Iron Man, but for more details on all of these events, you can watch the video about Fang Foom linked in the description. Speaking of Iron Man, another alien race that he encountered was the Froma. They originally hail from the planet Cheese, the second in the Delhi system, which was dominated by corporations and cartels. Due to heavy amounts of gamma radiation in their sunlight, the Froma evolved into large, green-skinned humanoids averaging 7.5 feet in height. They once considered the Earth as a potential target for colonization, but when the initial invasion party was repelled by Iron Man, they abandoned this and retreated. Interestingly, each of these Froma scouts shared their name with an earthly cheese, including Edom, Gouda, Colby, and Havarti. Now that's pretty much all I've got time for this week, so I apologize for the slightly shorter video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week with another full-length episode. And you know, there are plenty more of these obscure alien races and invaders that I could touch on, so if you did like this video and you want more, then let me know and share the video as well. As always, the issues referenced are listed in the description if you want to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me, including my Patreon page, where for only $1 a month you can get your name in these special thanks here. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!